Hi everybody, Dr. Dan Miller here, Historical Solutions LLC. You're on the 250 River with Dr. Dan. Real people, real stories, real life. 250 years ago, this day and this week, we're in the first week of February, 1775, first week of February 2025. We're on the river toward the American founding. And we've got our top five. We have our top five from this week, 250 years ago. But before we do that, I want to thank our sponsor for this week's episode. This is a big shout out. Thank you to Thomas Shore and Bowling Stark. Thomas Shore and Bowling Stark, partners in a venture that involves the ship, a brigantine called the Assistance, captained by Stephen Farish and waiting right now in the port of Norfolk, colony of Virginia. And they have a capacity of 300 hogshead barrels, great big barrels you can put things in, or they have a capacity of 7,500 bushel sacks filled with various items. So if you have things that can go over to Whitehaven, the second largest port in England, that's where we're going to be bound once we're filled up with our cargo. So if you've got cargo to go, we've got space to rent out to you across the Atlantic Ocean. Just contact Thomas Shore or Bowling Stock in the wonderful port town of Norfolk, and you'll be bound soon to, your goods will be bound soon to Whitehaven, England's second largest port. 99% fact, 1% fiction. Thank you to our sponsors from 250 years ago today. Still waiting on my check to make it that to get that 1% fiction flipped over to the 99% fact side. So, hope you're well. Got some stuff going on today. We're doing top five. We're going top five 250 years ago. Got our fancy graphics department to get into this. We're doing a number five right now. Let's think of Sarah, shall we? Let's think of Sarah today, who's undergoing breast surgery for cancer, breast removal, mastectomy, 250 years ago today in her house. She's known the diagnosis for some time. She's known what we're going to be doing today, 250 years ago, in her house. And so let's think about her and all that she'll be going through today, 250 years ago. Sarah, you're on our minds and in our hearts and prayers. That is number five. Daily life is always real. So, number four in our top five, a similar daily life is always real moment for Gilbert Stuart and Logan. These are two separate people. Gilbert Stuart has moved to the Monongahela River Valley in search of a better life. Thought he had a better life coming with lands that he'd purchased there. But as it turns out, a guy named Thomas Cressup is kind of hijacked the project and is putting a new settlement where he believes it ought to be in the Monongahela River Valley in a very remote area. And Gilbert Stuart's life, dreamed of life of a new start and a better world out in that area for him, it's kind of gone up in smoke, and he can't get access to this proposed new colony, or this proposed new county, I should say, in the Monongahela River Valley, and he's writing to someone to see if he can get some help on that, because if the help doesn't come, his dream is over. Logan, his dream ended when they took the land that Gilbert Stuart's trying to move in on. Logan is the native chief, the native leader of the Mingo tribe, the native Mingo tribe out in that same area, driven out by the governor, the military expedition organized by Governor Lord Dunmore, colony of Virginia. So the irony here is so big you can't even get your arms around it. So Stuart thought he was going to have this dream land from land taken from Logan and his people. Stuart's dream seems to be slipping away. Logan's dream went away a long time ago with the seizure of the land and the murder of his family. Wife, children, everybody, cousins, everybody. He's the only one left alive in his family line. And guess who did it? Thomas Cressup committed those murders and started an isolated war out in that area. And then Lord Dunmore sent a group of volunteer soldiers through it and took the land from them. So that's number 4. Somber start to our top 5, but it's the truth. Notice the thread here: dashed dreams, destroyed dreams, and a guy named Thomas Cressup. We're going to come back to him momentarily. Let's move on to item number 3. Hang on. Graphics department, thank you again. Item number 3 in our top 5. It's a stack of papers. Stack of papers. I don't know, yay big, yay thick, something like that. These are the documents that the Congress worked on so diligently last fall. They're petitions. They are letters. They are testimonials to the pain of the punishment inflicted on Boston, on Massachusetts, and they're fearful on the rest of the colonies. They went through all kinds of hoops. They brought people together, 56 of them in Philadelphia, argued about, disputed over, and finally got these documents agreed upon, with the idea that if we don't, we're going to keep this peaceful as a protest and do a nonviolent protest, and we're going to do an economic boycott if you don't meet us here halfway on this. And so this is all in the petitions, all in that stack of paper. Well, it was sent over to London, right? Sent to all the right people, sent to Parliament, sent to the Imperial Cabinet under Lord North, the Prime Minister, sent to the King of England, George III. They never got off the stack of paper. They were shuffled from one desk to another, one smaller stack to a bigger stack. The bureaucrats got a hold of it. Got a hold of that work produced by the Congress last fall, and it's amounted to squat. It's sitting in a stack of papers. Nobody wants to even read it, honestly. King doesn't. Prime Minister doesn't. The supporters that they have in Parliament, which is the majority, they don't want to read it. So all that work sits in a stack of paper. Benjamin Franklin, by the way, makes a sidebar comment. He knows the stack. He's been watching the stack, and he writes a note today and sends it back to Philadelphia. This is 250 years ago, remember? First week of February. And he says, forget it, man. Just forget the petitions. No more petitions. If you're going to do anything, hit them where it hurts. Hit them in the pocketbook. Hit them in the bank account. Use that economic boycott. Everybody hang together. Stay together on that economic boycott. Maybe that'll do it. But the stack of paper, forget it. Forget it. So that's number 3, our stack of paper in the top 5. Let's go to number 2. We're up to number 2 out of the top 5. John, what's his name? What do I got? John Fothergill. Quaker leader over in England, right? Well connected, highly regarded, very well spoken, and very insightful individual. John Fothergill. And John Fothergill writes a letter to one of Lord North's cabinet members. His name is the Earl of Dartmouth. He's supposedly in charge of of colonial affairs as they're conducted by the imperial government. And Fothergill says this whole thing's boiled down to basically 2 things. We got one side over here in America that is saying you have to repeal the coercive acts if we're going to have a conversation about getting things back to normal. Then you got the other side in England. These are the opponents of that, right? The majority in Parliament, including the King, the Prime Minister, and all the rest. And they're saying, no way are we doing that. So Fothergill says that's where we are. Doesn't look good. And then he uses the word revolution in this letter that he's writing to Dartmouth. And Fothergill says, you know what? When revolutions happen, the wealthy do okay. They always do. When revolutions happen, the poor do badly. They always do. But the ones who are going to suffer the most, he says, are the middling. Now, that's his phrase, his world's phrase for the middle class. The middle class is going to get hit the hardest with this. Whatever they have, they're going to lose. Poor don't have anything, nothing to lose. Wealthy have it all, they're going to keep it. But the ones who have stuff to lose, they'll lose it all. The middle class. That's what Fothergill says. So that's item number 2 on our top 5 list. And we're going to go to number 1. George Mason in the colony of Virginia. He's a politician. He's a judge. He's spent most of his life up to this point in the political arena. He's done a little bit of militia stuff, but not much really. It's their honors. They're honorific. His world is politics, law, legal, courtrooms, all of that. Right? George Mason decides that he's going to write a draft plan for Fairfax County, influential county in Virginia, in the colony of Virginia. He's going to write a draft plan for militia organization because that's where we're headed, the militia. Now, he never says it outright, but everybody knows. He doesn't even have to say it outright. Why are we doing this? Well, here's why we're doing it, because it looks like there's a war coming real soon. And we got to be ready. We got to be prepared. So in that, he outlines a procedure for units to come together, 68 men per unit. These are volunteers. 68 men per unit. Here's what's interesting. We'll have each unit, once it hits its 68 volunteers, each unit will then vote on its officers. Repeat, vote on its officers. The 68 will vote on who's going to be the captain, lieutenant, sergeant, etc. That's a really interesting way to approach how we're going to handle a war that might and in fact looks like is coming our way. That's Mason's plan. He also has another thing in here, which is we need, beyond the 68-man volunteer units, the companies they call them, we need some specialists. And I'm going to call them, he says, light infantry, or the rifling men, the rifle men, the men who know how to handle the long guns, the rifles that could shoot 200, 300 yards slowly, and being prepared and being primed and all of that. They're slow to operate, but boy, they're accurate with the guys who know how to use them. And they're the guys that tend to wear the hunting shirts and the hunting pants and the hunting boots and everything else hunting. We need the hunters into a specialty light infantry unit. If you want to think of them as a 2025 version of special ops, special forces, that's a pretty decent way to think of it. This is what Mason says we need in his draft law. Now, here's where I told you earlier about Cressup, put Cressup to the side. Question becomes for me, and I wonder, and there's no answer to this, but I just wonder, how does a guy like Cressup fit in to a thing like this plan? Now, obviously, he's out in the Monongahela River Valley, but if a guy like Cressup is in the colony of Virginia, in the county of Fairfax, where Mason's plan is, how does a guy like that fit into the organization of the militia? Does he go into the 68-man volunteers, become an officer with the votes? Does he go into the light infantry? And can you count on the organizational plan to keep this guy under control and all the rest? So I just wonder that. So thanks to everybody. Went a little long today, 13 minutes with the 13 colonies. There we are. Hope you're having a good weekend. It's Super Bowl weekend. Chiefs and Eagles. I know I didn't mess it up like I did last time. Thanks everybody for watching. Hope you have a great weekend. It's a great time for where you are and where you're headed in the second week of February that's coming up. Talk to you very soon.